There's a default setting hiding inside most UK workplace pensions. You never chose it. Nobody ever asked you about it. And right now, in 2026, it's quietly eating away at the retirement savings of hundreds of thousands of people. Welcome back to Pension and Benefits Guide, the channel where we break down the confusing world of pensions and retirement planning into simple, practical advice you can actually use. If you're in your 50s or 60s with a workplace pension, this affects you directly, because the people getting hurt the most are the ones closest to retirement. The very people this system was supposed to protect. Here's the basics. If you have a UK workplace pension, chances are your money is sitting inside something called a lifestyle fund. You probably didn't pick it. It's just the default, and the default is where almost everyone ends up. When you're young and decades away from retirement, your pension sits mostly in equities, shares in major global companies. Higher risk, but historically higher long-term returns. Then, usually 5 to 10 years before your chosen retirement date, the fund automatically shifts your money out of equities and into bonds, gilts, and cash. This is called the glide path. The goal is to reduce risk before you retire, so a market crash doesn't wipe out your savings right before you stop working. Sounds sensible. But here's the problem. This system was built for a different era, a time when nearly every retiree in the UK bought an annuity. You'd hand over your pot to an insurance company and get a guaranteed income for life. Back then, moving into bonds before retirement made sense, because bond values lined up with the annuity rate you were about to lock in. Then, in April 2015, pension freedoms changed everything. People stopped buying annuities. Scottish widows found that since 2015, only 1 in 4 of their retiring customers actually buys an annuity. From nearly 2 decades of first-hand experience, the real number looks even lower, closer to 1 in 10. Almost nobody buys an annuity anymore. And yet the lifestyle fund hasn't caught up. Most UK workplace pensions still run the exact same de-risking strategy built for a generation that's basically disappeared. Why? Because it's cheap to run, simple to administer, and it ticks a regulatory box. It's the financial equivalent of a one-size-fits-all suit. It fits the average person badly, and almost nobody is actually average. So the first thing to check is, are you in one of these funds? Look for the terms target-dated fund or lifestyling fund when you log into your pension account. If you're not sure, assume you are, because statistically, you almost certainly are. Quick pause here. If this is opening your eyes even a little, hit like, subscribe if you're new here, and drop a comment letting me know if you've checked your own pension yet. It genuinely helps this information reach more people who need it. Now, when your workplace pension was first set up, a target was buried in the small print, usually one of 3 options: annuity, cash, or drawdown. But remember, hardly anyone buys an annuity anymore. Yet research suggests most UK lifestyle funds are still targeting an annuity by default. That means for hundreds of thousands of people, their pension is automatically shifting into UK government bonds as if they're about to cash out for an annuity tomorrow. Except many of them are heading into drawdown instead, needing that money to keep growing for another 20, 30, even 40 years. This is a serious mismatch. If you're buying an annuity, you want stability right at the end. If you're going into drawdown, you need long-term growth, because your money has to last decades. The lifestyle fund doesn't know which path you're on. It just follows the calendar it was originally given. It gets worse if your retirement date is wrong. Most people set it when they first joined the scheme, sometimes in their 20s. If your plans have changed since then, your fund could be de-risking you years too early, or too late, cutting off growth you actually needed. So the second thing to check is what your lifestyle fund is targeting, and whether it matches what you genuinely plan to do. If your answer is I don't know, you're not alone, and honestly, that's the answer the industry quietly relies on. But here's where the real impact becomes clear, and it's the part that concerns me the most. The whole justification for lifestyle funds is that they move you into safe assets near retirement, bonds, gilts, and cash. Except right now, in 2026, that's exactly what these assets are struggling with. And this isn't the first time. Back in autumn 2022, after the mini-budget under Liz Truss, UK gilts collapsed. The Telegraph reported the case of saver Adam Daniels, who watched £100,000 get wiped off his pension because his lifestyle fund had moved into gilts right before they crashed. That was 2022. Now look at 2026. Two forces are hammering bonds at once. First, the conflict involving the US, Israel, and Iran, which escalated at the end of February, pushed energy prices up and brought inflation back as a serious concern. When inflation rises, bond prices fall. Bloomberg reported in March that traders globally were dumping government debt, sending bond yields to their highest level since May 2024. Historically, conflict sends investors toward bonds for safety. That hasn't happened this time. On top of that, UK political uncertainty has hit gilts even harder. The 30-year gilt yield touched 5.81% in May 2026, the highest since 1998. The 10-year gilt yield sits at levels not seen since the 2008 financial crash. When yields go up, prices go down. So if your lifestyle fund has spent recent years quietly shifting you into UK gilts, which most of them have, the safe part of your pension has actually been falling, and not by a small amount. This isn't a rare, freak event. It happened in 2022. It's happening again in 2026. And the strategy hasn't changed. The fund is still on autopilot, still moving people into one of the worst performing asset classes near retirement, simply because it's the default. To be clear, this isn't personal financial advice, just a perspective worth considering. But for most people heading toward drawdown, it's worth asking whether being heavily de-risked into bonds in your 60s still makes sense. For many, staying invested in a diversified portfolio of global equities, with a sensible cash buffer for short-term spending, would likely have served them better. That's a conversation worth having with a financial professional. Here's the bigger picture. Lifestyle funds were built for a generation that retired, bought an annuity, and lived off guaranteed income. That generation is largely gone. Maybe 1 in 10 retirees buys an annuity today. The rest are heading into drawdown, staying invested, needing their pension to keep growing for decades. Yet by default, the system is still preparing people for a retirement almost nobody plans for anymore, de-risking them into assets that, right now, are anything but safe. The industry needs to do better. But until it does, the responsibility falls on you to check your own pension and make changes where needed. You've spent decades building this pot, working hard, making sacrifices. Don't let a lazy default decide how the final chapter of your retirement plays out. So here's my question for you. Have you actually checked what your pension is doing right now, or are you assuming it's being looked after? Drop your answer in the comments, I'd genuinely like to know. If you found this valuable, make sure you're subscribed to Pension and Benefits Guide so you don't miss the next breakdown. And if you want to know exactly how much you need to retire comfortably, that's exactly what we're covering in the next video, so go check that one out next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.